Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode. This time we're going to do a review on the excellent Panasonic LX100. And I apologize, I think my son's practicing the piano upstairs, so that's probably what you're hearing. Sorry. Anyways, this is a compact camera, and I think many would say that it's one of the best, if not the best, currently available compact camera. It's a little bit bigger than the Sony RX series, which is also an excellent series of cameras. But this has a few things on the RX camera, and the RX has a few things on this one too, but I think this is really great. So it's kind of a neo-classical design, attractive, nice to hold, not really shirt pocketable, but definitely in a big cargo pocket or purse or something, and certainly you could take this on a vacation. So this, as a compact camera, has all the things that you normally would expect in a compact camera. You have Wi-Fi, you have a complete automatic mode, you have various filters, all this stuff, panorama, all the things that you normally would expect. However, what makes this so spectacular is this has a micro 4/3 sensor. So that's significantly larger than even a 1-inch sensor like in the RX cameras. This is a 16 megapixel sensor. It has been cropped down to 12 megapixels to allow for different aspect ratios. This will shoot in different aspect ratios, so it's a little bit less, but 12 megapixels is plenty for just about anything. So let's take a look at some of the other features of this camera. One of them is right here. This is a Leica lens, again fixed to the camera. It goes from 24 to 70 millimeters, which is pretty usable. But what's amazing about this lens is it goes from a f at the wide end of 1.7 to the telephoto lens of 2.8. Now, if you were going to buy a 2.8 fixed aperture lens, the same focal range, right, for a micro 4/3, it would cost you more than this entire setup here. So that's what a good value this is. If you look on the back, you have many customizable features and controls, and you have an electronic high-resolution EVF. Some people say that there's a rainbow pattern when they scan with the EVF, when they pan, I mean, and I don't really see it, so it doesn't bother me. If you look at the top, you have all these other controls. Of course, you have I can get some right range. You have an aperture ring. It's not clickless, but you have this nice aperture ring. You have exposure compensation. You have shutter speed. You of course have a hot shoe. All that's built into, so it's very, very easy to use this camera in a sophisticated way, even with one hand. So you have basically the functionality of a DSLR. You have the picture quality that's near a DSLR. You have an awesome fast lens that also does excellent macro photography in a relatively small, easy to take with you package, which is why I think it really is such a great camera. So let's look at some pictures so I can show it off even more. Okay, so here we are. This just shows, and by the way, these are JPEGs. I shoot in JPEG all the time, and I don't really want to apologize to people about it. If you want to shoot in RAW, this does RAW too, but I'm pretty happy with JPEG. This is at 24 millimeters, and you can see it's the typical scene, nice and wide. If you go to the full telephoto of 70, that takes you to this picture here. But the great thing is this has an intelligent zoom, which is like an interpolated digital zoom, which really looks quite excellent, not like the digital zooms of bygone days, and that's this picture here. This is an ISO ramp up at 800, 1600, 3200 looks pretty good, a little bit of noise, 6400, getting a little more noise, I still would use that, a little more raggy. And this is 12,800. Again, beyond what I'm comfortable using, but I guess I'd use it, I don't know if I'd use it or not. This shows you just the kind of ability to get really close, the vibrant colors, and to have a very pleasant bokeh in the background using the macro function. This gets you even closer on the macro function. The camera chose to focus on the little hairs on the stamen, which you probably can't see on YouTube, but they are razor sharp. Of course, you can manually focus this camera too, and it does have focus peaking. This just shows you the beautiful colors that this camera can give. This was actually breakfast in bed for my wife on Mother's Day, and everything looks very appetizing, I think. Here's my wife with two of my kids, just showing the natural skin tones and just the overall clarity of the image. here is my niece, and this was using the supplied clip-on flash. And she looks kind of like she had a spray-on tan here, which is not the way that she actually looked. So the white balance for flash probably needs to be adjusted, and of course you can adjust that because this is a DSLR-like camera. Now this next picture shows my niece with my other niece with natural light, and you can see the skin tones look a lot more natural. The nice thing about a small camera is it's very easy to take candid pictures, and those are sometimes the best pictures that you can have for memories, and no one's going to freak out when you pull out the camera because it really doesn't look that big. It's not going to start posing for you. And this picture here just shows the ease of use of the camera. So I walked out and these two guys were tossing a ball back and forth, and I could easily just use my one hand and get a faster shutter speed and freeze their action. Now this is a common problem that you see with cameras. So I'm using matrix metering, so I'm metering across the entire sensor, and these two presenters were spotlighted, and so they're completely overblown. And there's a lot of ways that you could correct this. Of course, you could use spot metering, for instance, but it's also just as easy to just tune down the EV, and here we are with perfect, using exposure compensation here, perfect exposure just by turning one dial. This other picture shows the same thing. I think we're down a negative 1.66 on this photo, and they're perfectly exposed. They would have been completely overexposed, and again, I didn't have to go into any menus or press multiple buttons. All I really had to do was just turn a dial. This shows the electronic zoom again. This is not just a digital zoom. It does have one of those, which I would not recommend. This is the interpolated zoom. We're at 150 millimeters using that electronic zoom, and it looks pretty darn good. I would have no problems using this. And this is just a very short video clip. This is in 1080p. The camera does shoot in 4K. I have really no way of doing 4K, but the 1080p looks awesome. I hear 4K is also beautiful. This will show you the quality of the built-in microphones as well as just the video quality. Excuse my bouncing around. This was... And so here we are again. So are there any drawbacks with this camera? Well, every camera has drawbacks, right? So it doesn't have a built-in flash. There's no room for it, so you have to use the clip-on flash. It doesn't have a microphone or headphone jack because there's no room for it. It does not have an articulating rear screen that would make it thicker, so that's not there. So there are a few things that I think are negatives with this camera. It's not weather sealed, but they're certainly not negative enough to sway my opinion that this is probably the best, and you might have a different opinion, but it's certainly one of the best compact cameras that you can currently buy in 2015. So highly recommended, not cheap, but I think an excellent value because it's just so excellent in its size and the fact that it produces near DSLR-like photos, and it has such a fast lens and all that good stuff. So if you get some time, please give my free podcast a listen. You can find it on iTunes. It's called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike. If you like this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you like my channel, please subscribe to it. Take care, everyone.